Hello there, YouTube. We're making a little antenna selector switch for our stereo. We have two different antennas and sometimes they work good on AM and FM both. So this is what we're designing. This is part of an old channel selector out of a 23 channel CB. I forgot to grab my pointer. This ring was split right here. So I made it, I put a little dab of solder, I made it connect so it's connected all the time. Okay, if you look at the top left, the red dot, these two terminals are jumpered across. So here would be antenna 1. You look at the bottom down here, towards the bottom right, this would be, let's call it AM, that'd be FM. So it's going between those two terminals up here at the top, which are jumpered together. So the antenna is always either going to go to AM or FM. The same with antenna 2, this middle wire. Here's antenna 2, would be AM or FM. Here's antenna 3, be AM or FM. These things are kind of touchy here. This one I soldered because it was loose on the rivet. I will hot glue this. This looks messy, but it works. This will start out with a little bit of glue at a time to make sure nothing contact, because you see these paths going down here that goes to these terminals. And I had marker on here and I smudged it and stuff from working with it in my hands, but I'm just trying to stay focused on this. We're on telemacro, okay? So you get the basic idea. Now this, so it goes 6 positions actually, and then it stops. The knob won't go any further, it stops. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But we just put it into 3 AM and 3 FM. This is the AM, FM, AM, FM, AM, FM. Here's antenna 1, which across either two of these because it's jumpered. Antenna 2, antenna 3. So you have, if you watch this one down at the bottom, there's AM, there's FM. Here's AM, there's FM, AM, and FM. And I believe these are close enough, these are far enough apart where you're not going to get from one antenna to the next. This is not for transmitting, it's just for receiving, so we're not going to be that critical. We don't have to use coaxial cable or anything. If you look at an antenna switch for CB, some of them are made really crappy. They had problems with them. I might make a video on that someday, how to put 2 antennas on a semi-truck without using that co-phasing thing. Truck drivers have done that because the co-phasing thing was just a joke. It always was. It never did work right. Truck drivers have a quality antenna switch so they can have the left side antenna or the right side in case one shucks out. That works better for them. Some drivers have done that. They might have 2 different types of antennas too, if they're radio buffs. But this will all be glued. When I'm done, this will all be sealed in, so it'll last a few years. We're going to put it inside of a round can. The knob will be coming out this way. I use those safety can openers so I can put the lid back on. And I'll solder the lid on. I have little rubber grommets and stuff and little screw terminals. What I'm using to make the hole is my handy little tool I made a while back. I made a video on this. This works so good. You can unchuck and put whatever bit you want in here. This works so good. Find the center, just start working at it little by little in the can. As such. Go slow so you don't bend the can too much. It may not be exactly centered, but it's pretty close. I measure it with my dial calipers. You can always kind of adjust as you're reaming it out, but these bits are nice. They're not good on heavy stuff. They will dull out on you. Haven't broke one yet. I don't use them on real heavy stuff. But handy little tool I made. I'm glad I made that tool. I knew I'd be making holes in tin cans. I like making little stoves and stuff too in the winter time. Stuff out of tin cans. Then when I'm all done, I'll probably solder this on. Just a few points of solder. I have to find a way to hook it up to mount it on something. I may put just a couple little mounting tabs on here so I can put a screw and put it up on the shelves up there. I'm not going to worry about this writing stuff. Sometimes you take a little lighter fluid or something, you may get it off. This was a little can that had ham in it. It wasn't tuna or chicken, but you could probably find the same thing. And what I like about these... Okay, we got cut off there. Somewhere I was talking about the can. I think it was... What I like about these cans is the paper comes off, there's very minimal glue. And it's a hard glue, not the gooey stuff. It scrapes off real easy. The glue is probably about right in here. As you can see that little shadow of it. It comes off real easy. But that's about where I got cut. Okay, we're going to get back to work. And then we'll show when we get this, the other wires on here. One's for AM and FM. We'll have those on here. We'll have it down inside the can. We're going to put this in the can before we add all the wires to it. We'll have all the holes in there too. We'll put it in the can. We'll solder the wires last. So we're not trying to feed wires to the hole. We got to feed 3 wires to the hole. We're going to make it easier when we put all the other ones in there. This will fit down in here. This looks sloppy with the glue, but this is all glued. This is all sealed, glued up. Just an old part of a channel selector. There's another little hole. I'm going to fill it in. I want this sealed as best I can so it lasts as long as it'll last. So that's what we'll be doing. Then you'll get to see when it's down in the can. We're going to find our little grommets. We'll have our holes. Another tip, if you're going to put, say you're going to put holes inside of this can like I did here, I'm going to drill them first with the cordless drill. But put the lid on so you don't crush your can. Just make it solid. Just hold it in your hand. And that's what I like about doing it by hand. You don't have a drill going all over. But I will drill the hole starting here for each wire. So we're going to have 3 antennas coming in and 2 outputs. We'll have AM and FM coming out. So we'll have, like, say 1, 2, 3 different antennas. And we'll have 2 outputs, AM and FM. When you look at this side, then you'll see the knob. I may try to find a better knob than this. If not, it really doesn't matter. But what I like about this being round is they made a round antenna selector years ago. I would like to find one. It was a big one. They were made back in probably the tube days. And a friend of mine had one years ago. Mounted up above his radio. It was really nice. It was a big round antenna selector. So he could go to his beam, horizontal, vertical, or it probably had 4 positions or more. And I like to find one of those. You ever find one of them, you got a nice find. Take them apart carefully and make sure everything's clean. Like this is a pencil eraser. That's what I want to add. Take a pencil eraser, you can clean these up. And these little fingers, there is a hole underneath this finger. So I finally found my pointer. There's a little hole underneath these fingers. We'll try to get focused. You can kind of push it down in the hole a little bit. Just don't snag when you come over here. Just make sure it doesn't snag on that and bend it. I've taken these completely out of a 23 channel CB before and restored the whole thing because the radio was worth it. Because these get dirty in your channels when it works. And you'll be looking for the line on that piece. It might be hard to put it on the camera. But see the little line in the middle where it's been scraping on this piece? You want to see that nice clean line. But if you want to take the time on a 23 channel radio, and you know that's what's wrong with it, because you wiggle the channel selector, then it works, they're bulleted in segments. This could have had 3 or 4 segments. If you take one out and you mark, it takes a lot of work, because I've had to take all the wires off, and I took the wires off and cut them and split them. That's what I did. I cut and split the wires so I didn't take them off the board or I didn't take them off of here. I had to take it completely out. I think it was the back one that I left. I didn't have to cut as many wires. Depends on how much room is in it, whether it's in a base station or mobile. But you can clean these up. You can restore these if you spend the time. Just make sure that everything's clean. Make sure you don't bend these too far. If you do push down, there is a hole. You can push them in there a little bit and adjust them. You want to make sure when you go like this that you watch this raise up. Say like this terminal. When you're going in there and you're eyeballing it, make sure when you hit it, you see it raise up in contact. You almost can see it on the camera. I'll do it real carefully here and try not to move much. See how that raises up? That's what you want to see in these. I've done it. I had a couple 23 channel radios that were very nice condition. That's all that was wrong with them, and I would spend the time to do it. And it takes a long time. You have to have, I had a spot on my desk where I'd work on it little by little, and I'd come back to it, and I'd bring it over. If you have a big enough desk, you can work on stuff. You put it on a big piece of cardboard or board, you can slide it over out of your way and then bring it back in and work on it on a project. But let's get to work. We don't want these videos to be too long. Okay, let's get this in focus somewhat. Get my pointer pulled out here a little bit. Okay, this is antenna 1, antenna 2, antenna 3. This is AM, this is FM. Had a little trouble with the rubber grommets squishing out. When you do this, make sure you don't have no metal sticking out like when you drill. I had a problem with the metal sticking out, and then I tried to scrape it out, and then the grommet would still try to poke through the grommet. So over here, I just took some plastic and made some holes in it, and these are plastic washers. They came off with something. You can see where they break off the whatever they come on. These aren't completely tight yet. As you can see, there's light. I'm going to tighten them up, check the continuity on it. Turn the scanner down. Sorry about the distractions. I get too many radios going. Okay, this is AM, this is FM. Okay, now watch this black and red spot here. And this is where it'll connect to the antenna. Okay, we're going to start out. This goes AM, FM, AM, FM, AM. You'll see. This is AM. Wire goes here. Connects here, it goes to this terminal. I put these over here to kind of isolate it. This is the FM. The FM, skip one, FM, skip one, FM. It goes over to here. Okay, now if you watch, it might be a little complicated. I'll have to mark it on the front. Because you have antenna 1, which would be AM or FM. As I said earlier in the video, this is jumpered across these two terminals. Okay, now we're going to go down here again. Antenna 2 would be AM or FM. Antenna 3 would be AM or FM. It's kind of hard to see it up there where it goes through there. We'll go backwards. There's FM, AM, FM, AM, FM, AM. This is the only way I can figure out how to make this switch work. As long as it works for me. You got either AM, FM on one, AM, FM 2, AM, FM on the third antenna. And I'll have it marked. I'm planning on getting a label maker, so I don't put Sharpie marker and stuff on things. That looks kind of nasty. Also, every time I drill the hole, I did put the bottom on. It keeps the cam from getting squishy. Hold the bottom on while you're drilling. Also, I am going to put something in here for support, because this can kind of flexes. Kind of flexes a little bit and wobbles. I will be hot gluing something in here for support, going from this board down to here. Also, I will cover some of this with glue just to keep this solid, which can be a pain in the butt if you got to repair something to rip that glue out. It can be, but I want this solid. I don't want these wires to ever flex or move. I don't want anything moving them. Of course, they'll be inside the can, but I'll just put a little bit of glue. I won't put a whole lot. It won't be covered like over here. I want this all covered because it kind of acts as an insulator. Glue, plastic, kind of acts as an insulator. I was hoping to act as an insulator from the signal a little bit. But this is all experimental. Get back up here so we can focus. Okay, and this is centered pretty good here in the center of the can. It may be turned this way where the antenna is coming like this, because it's still going to perform the same function. probably hooked this way. This way it's going towards the radio. These are the antennas coming in on this side. I made the bolts plenty long enough because you never know what you're going to hook to it. You might hook more than one radio up to the antennas. You may hook on here. That's all I had. It was either this or too short a bolt. So I'm not going to really cut these off. I'm just going to leave them. Okay, that's it. I might make a little short video of it in use, but there you go. Put something in there to keep this from flexing. This can is flexible. Make sure everything's tight and use continuity meter. Believe me, I could have put this together and messed up. Always check for continuity, make sure you don't have a short. I'd recommend putting something in here if you could. If you could put a ground, even if you could take a screw. I should have put a screw here just for ground, and I need to buy some alligator clips. It's hard to hold your test leads here and then test here. It's kind of hard to hold that. It's better to have alligator clips. You can make them and bend them so they slide onto your test leads. You can make an alligator clip fit on your test lead so you can clip it on something. You can take a short piece of wire and test on. Because holding that stuff, that was one of the hardest parts of the job. Checking to make sure I didn't have a short. But that's it for this part of the video. I might make one of it showing it in action. Thanks for watching this one.